Good morning. How you guys doing? So before I start, I want to show you something because it's the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. My favorite Shopify store, Shelfies, made me a t-shirt with my face on it. So if that's not ridiculous, do you want it? Really? I'm never going to wear this. And if I bring it up to my wife, she'll laugh at me, so you can have it. Are you actually going to wear it? Your kids are going to wear it? Okay. That's fine. So I only have a few minutes here, and as those of you that know me know, I'm fairly verbose, and I don't like timers and people telling me to get off stage. So I'm going to try to go pretty quickly. But I want to take you back to the early days of Shopify, and I have a lot of these memories of those early days, meeting investors and advisors and even potential merchants and customers of ours. And this reoccurring conversation happened over and over and over again, which was, when is Shopify going to move to Silicon Valley? When is Shopify going to move to San Francisco? And I think with a lot of, we didn't believe we had to. And so I think being stubborn and having a lot of control of where we were going to build the company, we were steadfast in saying we're going to build a company in Canada. And hopefully now people realize that that may have been a good idea, I hope. But as I sort of reflect on those days, and I've been telling this story that I think Canada is one of the best places in the world to build a billion-dollar company that changes the world. I've been telling people the reason for that is a few things. Number one, I think we have an incredible education system in Canada that brings incredible students out. I think Canadians generally are very loyal, which means that you're able to have people working with you for many, many years, meaning they have lots of context, which I think is really important. Our immigration policy allows us to bring people into Canada from all over the world. I think that's also really helpful. And I think if you're going to build a global business like we have that sells in 175 countries, having a country that is inherently multicultural is really, really important. And so those are the reasons, or those are the, that's the list of things I've been repeating for a number of years of why I think Canada is such a great place to build a multi-billion-dollar business. But more recently, I've come to the understanding, and I've sort of had a bit of an epiphany, that I was missing two major aspects that I just didn't realize. And the reason I didn't realize that there were two other major reasons why Canada's the best place to build a large-scale company is because they kind of changed, and they changed in the last couple of years. And so what happened was, about 5 or so years ago, it seems like business became geographically agnostic almost overnight. And the best example I can provide you of that is, if you look at where the fashion industry used to be based, it was almost always in Milan or New York City. And that's changed. And if you look at the oil and gas industries, those industries were always based in places like Alberta or Texas. And that, of course, has changed as well. Even if you look at things like car manufacturers, it always happened in Detroit. It's not happening there anymore. It's happening all over the place. And so the first big macro shift that I think has happened is that business today in 2017 is completely geographically agnostic. It really doesn't matter where you're based. If you have the best product and you have product market fit, you can find customers. So that's one shift that I've noticed that has been dramatic, and I think that's led to Canada being a better place than it's ever been. The second thing, it's something that I've been wrong about, which is I've gone on record about lamenting the fact that so many Canadian startups sell out too early. In fact, I gave a talk on this stage 2 years ago saying that I wish more Canadian entrepreneurs did not sell their companies too early. Instead of thinking about when Google is going to acquire you, I want to see more Canadian entrepreneurs thinking about when they're going to acquire Google. I think that sort of ambition is really important, right? That's good. So I've been complaining that we've been selling out too early, and what I didn't actually realize was there actually is a very positive byproduct of so many acquisitions happening. So in the last 5 years, there's been 183 tech acquisitions in Canada, 183. Now, some of those obviously went to the US, others were, bought by other Canadian companies. But because we haven't had any big billion-dollar acquisitions per se, we've had so many small ones, which again, I never thought was that great. What I missed out on that was that actually provides a couple things. Number one, because we've had these 183 acquisitions, it means that we now have all these new angel investors that provide risk capital. You can't go to a VC with some crazy idea without any traction, convince them to write you a check. But angel investors inherently remember when they were in that seat. And so I think you have more liquidity for very early stage, crazy ass ideas. The second thing you have beyond just money, is you have second and third time entrepreneurs all over the country, which provide incredible experience and understanding to these companies that are on these crazy growth trajectories. I think that's also incredibly important. So you have mentors, you have advisors, you also have capital. And so, although I've been saying that we sell too early, the benefit of selling too early is that now there's an entire ecosystem of people helping each other. 6 months after Shopify's IPO, the lockup was over. The lockup means that no one was allowed to sell until that 6-month period. And so we had to wait, I guess, until around November 2015 to provide any liquidity, to get any liquidity for ourselves. That day, I got a phone call from someone that many of you know named Dan DeBow, and he said, great, you have some money now, what are you gonna do with it? And I kind of joked and said, I don't know, help my parents or something. And he said, no, you actually need to give me 3 companies right now that you're gonna take your money and invest in. That is a real thing. That is happening now almost every single day. We've created an ecosystem and a community here in Canada where there's this kind of peer pressure from one another, where we're holding each other accountable, that if you have had any success whatsoever, it is your responsibility to give it back into the community and the ecosystem. And that wasn't happening 6 years ago. It just started happening the last 5 years or so. So why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this because I've always thought Canada was a great place to build a company for inherently cultural Canadian things, like loyalty and education and this curiosity we all have. But these macro trends, being business, being agnostic, and having 183 acquisitions in the last 5 years alone, that has added an incredible amount of fire and fuel to this community that we have. And I'm happy to say publicly like this, that Canada has truly been Shopify's competitive advantage. And I hope all of you build incredible businesses right here in Canada. Thank you so much.